The B-52 Stratofortress first flew in the 1950s, yet it remains one of America's most important bombers today. Welcome to this strategic briefing. Today, we're breaking down a really pressing paradox in modern military aviation. How exactly does a 70-year-old bomber continue to absolutely dominate the skies over conflict zones like Iran, while simultaneously facing severe, fatal safety questions right here at home? After decades of service, questions about its age, safety, and future continue to spark intense debate. And the urgency of this briefing comes from a tragic event that literally just unfolded. Just 2 days ago, a fatal crash killed 8 crew members at Edwards Air Force Base. Yet despite this devastating loss, the U.S. military insists this legacy airframe will not be retired anytime soon. It's still flying, and it remains a massive cornerstone of their strategic planning. So here is our flight plan for today's briefing. We're going to examine the recent crash data from Edwards, review the aircraft's history, analyze its evolving role in operations over Iran, look objectively at its strategic limits, and finally, weigh that ongoing debate between safety and modernization. Okay, Section 1. Let's start with the Edwards Air Force Base incident on June 15, 2026. We've got new flight tracking data that reveals a rapid, really catastrophic sequence of events. Shortly after takeoff, the aircraft made a sharp right turn, nearly completed a full 180-degree reversal, and then plunged directly to the ground. Now, this sequence paints a clear picture of a sudden loss of control, though the exact mechanical or human factors, well, those are still unknown. Let's look at the specifics of what went down. This was a Boeing B-52H, tail number 60-0061, assigned to the 412's test wing. All 8 crew members aboard, which was a mix of military personnel, government civilians, and contractors, were killed. They were out conducting a routine mission just to test a newly modernized radar system. The Air Force has already launched a massive investigation, and that's expected to take about 6 months to yield any real answers. Section 2. The B-52 Stratofortress, America's oldest active bomber. To understand why such an old aircraft was testing brand new radar, you have to look at the timeline. Introduced during the Cold War, the B-52 entered service in 1955, and production actually ended completely in 1962. So every single B-52 in the sky today is over 60 years old. More than 70 years later, thanks to multiple rigorous life extension programs, upgraded versions are still flying missions for the U.S. Air Force. Its strategic purpose has fundamentally evolved over those decades. The B-52 was originally designed to carry nuclear payloads across intercontinental distances. But today, its modern utility relies entirely on its massive carrying capacity. Because it can haul such an incredibly heavy load over vast distances, it's been perfectly leveraged for massive conventional weapons delivery all over the globe. Moving to Section 3, Operations in Iran during the 2025 to 2026 conflict. Over the course of less than a year, the B-52's role escalated dramatically. We can actually break this down into 3 distinct phases. Operation Midnight Hammer in June 2025, Operation Epic Fury in March 2026, and finally the achievement of air dominance in April 2026. Let's see how the bomber's tactics shifted in each phase. During Phase 1, Operation Midnight Hammer, the military used standoff tactics for the B-52. You had stealth B-2 bombers penetrating the airspace directly to drop bunker busters on hardened nuclear sites like Fordow and Natanz. Meanwhile, the massive non-stealthy B-52s stayed safely outside Iranian airspace. From that safe distance, they acted essentially as flying missile silos, firing volleys of long-range cruise missiles. Then came Phase 2. Operation Epic Fury in March 2026. In just the first 72 hours of this phase, B-52s flying alongside B-1Bs and B-2s struck over 1,700 targets. The sheer volume of ordnance delivered in that tight window relies completely on the unmatched payload capacity of the Stratofortress. To put that number into perspective, military analysts at 1945 described these attacks as uncontested surgical strikes against Iranian missile and political infrastructure. They noted that this was on a scale nearly double that of the 2003 Iraq strikes. The B-52 was absolutely instrumental in delivering that overwhelming force. This brings us to Phase 3 in April 2026, where the U.S. achieved complete air dominance. This is a vital concept for military planning. It means having such complete control of enemy airspace that highly vulnerable, non-stealth assets can operate safely inside it. Because of this shift, B-52s no longer had to fire from the outside. They flew directly inside Iranian airspace, protected by high-altitude overwatch from F-22 and F-35 fighters to specifically target drone and missile factories. Section 4. Strategic Limits and the Underground Challenge. Despite that overwhelming air dominance, the B-52 has distinct strategic limits. An underreported strategic failure occurred near Isfahan. Iran maintains a massive underground missile city there, and intelligence confirms that it actually survived repeated direct bombardments from both B-2s and B-52s. The depth and hardening of these facilities proved totally resistant even to heavy concentrated payloads. Crucially, these deep underground facilities were never fully neutralized. In fact, they remained offline for no longer than 12 hours before launch activities simply resumed. This shows us that even with a heavy bomber loitering right overhead, deep subterranean targets remain a massive challenge for modern air operations. And that brings us to Section 5, Safety versus Modernization, the ongoing debate. Historically, the B-52 has a remarkably long operational record without frequent crashes. Before this week's tragedy, the last recorded crash was in Guam in 2016 with 0 fatalities. That makes the 2026 Edwards incident the deadliest B-52 crash since 1982, when 9 crew members died at Mather Air Force Base. The sheer rarity of these events is part of what makes the recent loss so incredibly jarring. And this presents command with 2 conflicting realities. Despite its age, the aircraft has received new engines, radar upgrades, and communication systems. Military planners argue that modernization has kept the bomber relevant even in an era of stealth aircraft, and supporters counter that the B-52 remains one of the most cost-effective long-range strike platforms ever built. But on the flip side, critics argue that operating aircraft designed in the 1950s carries immense inherent risks and massive maintenance challenges, inevitably risking the lives of the crew. Ultimately, we are left with a critical question. Can a bomber designed during the Eisenhower era remain effective and safe into the 2050s? The answer to that may very well shape the entire future of American air power. Thank you for joining this briefing.